Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to showcase one of my favorite dark ambient type loops that I've made. I'm going to show you a super simple way to get the best results every time, so let's get straight into it. Alright, so first off, it's a very simple loop. We're at 130 BPM and we're only using 4 sounds. For these dark ambient loops, you don't want too much going on. You want it to be interesting, but you don't want it to be too crazy or to take up too much space. So this is going to be a very simple and straightforward tutorial. I use pretty much all one-shots in this loop. The first one shot I used was this producer grind Poison Bell one shot. All these one shots are from the free producer grind one shot kit. You should check it out. I'll try and leave a link to it in the description. But I'm playing this very simple melody in D sharp minor. Basically, if I lengthen all these chords out, you can see that this is kind of following a D sharp minor triad, all but except this G sharp here. So we'll go on the root note up to the 5th, down. This is the 4th, to the 3rd, and to the root again. So we're basically playing the 1st and the 5th and then coming down the triad, but also adding that G sharp in there. So that's the first section. The second section, I've just repeated this downwards arpeggiation, but I've switched up the timing here. We've got every half bar and then 2 notes in a single bar here to bring it up to 4 bars. And then I basically just copied this over, shifted it up an octave, and that's the melody we've got. And I just shift D to shorten all the notes. And this is just a super simple melody playing pretty much one chord the entire time. It's just the rhythm and the notes you're playing are switching up. So in the first half, the rhythm's consistent, then it switches up in the next 2 bars. And then for the second half, it's pitched up an octave. So you're always getting a little bit of variation. In terms of effects for this sound, I've just cut out the low end and I've increased the stereo separation to 100%. Just to make it a bit wider and make it less muddy so it doesn't clash with the low end when we have the sub bass. So this is the melody by itself. Super fire. The next thing I did was I grabbed this other bell one shot from the same one shot kit, and I pretty much used the same notes and a very similar rhythm. So you can see here on the other pattern, it actually went from the D sharp on the 1 for a whole bar up to the A sharp, which was originally here. But I've actually shifted everything back so that it's a beat from the 1. And we've just gone down in the same D sharp chord arpeggiation with the G sharp thrown in there for good measure. And this basically repeats twice to this point here, and then we just go back up using these 2 same notes, except it's flipped the other way around, just so that it has a little bit of variation at the end and it leads into the next 8 bars nicely. No effects on this one. I've just made it a little bit mono because I noticed the one shot sounded like it was panned to one side and I wanted to bring it back to the center. So between these 2 sounds, you get a sort of bouncing effect. This bell sort of sounds like an echo of the original one, and I really like the effect that that has. So this is what those sound like together. Very nice. The third sound we have was this strings one shot. It's just a violin with like an undertone of like crickets. I thought it sounded really cool. One thing I really liked about it that was dark is that it didn't have a lot of high end. It sounded quite filtered and vintage almost in a way. And this is playing a very, very simple pattern. It's going down in this D sharp chord fashion that we've had in the past 2 patterns. But the only variation is every 2 beats, we come down here and then we quickly drop for a beat down to the C sharp for a little bit of variation. And that's just copy and paste it over to the second 4 bars. It sounds like this. Something to note is that I selected this cut itself option so that they didn't play over each other because I only wanted to play melody and not chords. And also the sustain is turned up so that this last note rings out. For effects, once again, we've just got a high pass filter, cutting out the lows to make room for the sub bass. And speaking of the sub bass, this bass one shot called Rock. Super nice, just playing the root note D sharp every 2 bars. I do have an instance of Decapitator on this. I love the P-style distortion that this plugin has. I always turn the drive up to about 5 or 6. And with all the other sounds, it sounds like this. Finally, like in the last video, I routed all the sounds except for the sub bass to a bus, and I put Cymatic's Origin on that bus with 9% chorus, 12% movement, 14% saturation, and the filter just down from 44,000 hertz. It says 40,000 there. And a little bit of vinyl crackle as well, just to give all these other instruments a darker, older, more worn feel. And I think that just adds another 5% on top, make it 5% better. Like the cherry on the cake. On most loops, I also have these things on my master chain. I've got fresh air, very slight bump. In fact, it's probably not doing much at all. I've got ozone imager 2 to bump up the stereo separation to make it a little bit wider. But when you do that, it also adds stereo separation to the low end, and that's not what you want to do. So I've got an instance of Maximus here. We're in the low end and we've fully merged the stereo image just for the low frequencies. This is something that you should do on every mix, or every master I should say, to make sure you don't get phase issues in your low end. But yeah, that's it. I've just arranged it into a loop here. Intro, hook, and something different for the verse. But that's gonna be it. Super simple, super straightforward. I think anyone could definitely do a version of this, just using different sounds and a different chord. And yeah, these are the best types of loops. The simple ones, they sound good, they're moody, they're dark. What more could you ask for? But yeah, that's gonna be it. If you like the video, subscribe if you wanna see more content, hit the bell notifications to be notified next time I post a video. Hope you're well wherever you're watching from in the world. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. I love you.